process of children's participation, and also to learn a little bit more about the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, which is the context of this Children's Solutions Lab. Today, I'm joined by my colleagues from Arigatou International offices. They will have a chance to introduce themselves as they're facilitating different sessions, but I'll quickly mention their names. We have the Director of the Ethics Education Initiative, Maria Lucia. We have Suchita Berawikram from Ethics Education Initiative also. We'll shortly be joined by the Director of End Child Poverty, Fred Nebera. And we have other colleagues working in the programs and communications. That's Gerald Acho, Kefe, Innocent, and we will be supporting you in the background. So far, we have about 47 different organizations that have expressed interest through the forms you wrote. Out of those, 30 of you have been able to participate in the session, and as more people come, we'll invite you to join. So with that, thank you so much. If we can take just a moment of silent thanks and reflection, that'll be appreciated. Thank you. So just to start us off, I'll welcome you again to the session. You may have had a chance to look at the email we sent that had quickly run through the agenda. But basically today, with our time together, what we want to do is kind of bring you to what Arigatou International is doing, why we're here, why we focus on children's participation, and why that's important in this time and age. We'll also look at the context in our present day. What are the issues affecting children, child poverty, and how does education come in? How can education be used as a resource for children to address poverty? Then we'll quickly go into what is the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty? What's the theme this year and how that's important and relevant to us as people who are concerned for children's well-being in partnership with you. Then we'll focus squarely for the rest of the session on the Children's Solutions Lab, and we'll ask questions together with you, such as, what's the Children's Solutions Lab about? Why are we supporting it? How will it benefit the children that you're working together with? And why, in what way can we bring in children? Then lastly, we'll look at more the practical questions on how can you support children to organize an event around the Children's Solutions Lab? What are the implications around their child protection, around their safety and well-being? How do you submit an idea? What do you do once that idea has been submitted to Arigatou International? Where do you take it? How will you implement it? So those are the practical questions we will look at. And to start us off, I would like to invite the Director of Ethics Education, Maria Lucia. She'll tell you a bit more about herself and the work she's doing. She can just maybe speak on behalf of all of us and let you know what Arigatou International is and why we're here today, why we focus on children. Thank you. Malu, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nyambura. It's a pleasure to be today with all of you. So my name is Maria Lucia Uribe. I'm the director of Arigatou International Geneva, and I'm very glad to see many familiar faces also here. Ismeta, Joyce, let me see, Vava that I met a few days ago, Seydun, of course, Nagiva. I see other names here that I may be missing, but very happy to be with all of you, and I'm very glad for the interest you have in this initiative that we are just launching. And so maybe for those who are not familiar with Arigatou International, I will just say very briefly what Arigatou International is and what we do. Arigatou International is an organization that works for the well-being of children around the world and promotes interfaith and intercultural collaboration for the well-being of children. Arigatou was founded in Japan in 1990 by a Buddhist lay movement called Myochikai. And from the beginning of Arigatou, the purpose was to promote interfaith collaboration, bringing people of different walks of life, people of different religions, people of different cultures together for the well-being of children. So this is at the core of what Arigatou is, focused on the well-being and the rights of children by bringing people of different faiths, beliefs, and cultures together. If you go to the next one, switch it. And so Arigatou International has these 4 ways in a way to do the work that we do. The first, and I think most of you are familiar with this, is the Global Network of Religions for Children. This is in a way the interfaith arm of Arigatou International. It's a grassroots network with presence in more than 50 countries where individuals and faith-based organizations, religious communities are working together for the well-being of children collaboratively. And so the network was created in the year 2000. So this year, actually, we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the network. And all the series of activities we are organizing are also in support of commemorating the 20 years of this network. We have the Ethics Education Initiative, which is the initiative I work with here in Geneva. And this initiative aims to foster in children values and ethical values and spirituality for children to learn to live together with people of different cultures and beliefs. And then we have the End Child Poverty, and I have several of our colleagues here that are, it's an initiative that is working to address the root causes of poverty that affect children. And my colleague, the director of End Child Poverty, is here with us, and he will be able to explain more in the context of the International Day of Eradication of Poverty as well. And then we have the microphones, please. That will help us. Thank you. And the last initiative is Prayer and Action. And this is an initiative that has a secretariat in New York, and that works specifically in the prevention of violence against children, bringing people of goodwill, people of different faiths together to address violence against children. Very much looking at child rights. I think someone has a microphone. If we can all mute our microphones, please, that will help us. So I'm not gonna talk more about this because I think we're all interested to hear more about the International Day of Eradication of Poverty. And so I want to invite my colleague, Reverend Fred Niavera, Director of End Child Poverty, to take us more into the purpose and why we are here. Fred, please go ahead.
Kindly mute your mics. Yeah, once again, let me add my voice to my colleagues, Maria Lucia and Nyambura. And it's really good to see all of you and to again welcome you to this campaign that we have. As you've been told, End Child Poverty is a multi-faith, child-centered global initiative that mobilizes faith communities and resources to end child poverty worldwide. My name is Fred Nyabera, as I told you, and I'm the director of End Child Poverty based in Nairobi. And the motto that we have with End Child Poverty, and especially during this International Day of Eradication of Poverty campaign, is that together we can end child poverty worldwide. And we normally have a concerted effort in the months of September, the whole of October, doing different things towards creating awareness, global awareness, and kind of sustaining our engagement in ending child poverty. So the campaign is a yearly campaign that takes more than 1 month. And we do different kind of things, which my colleague Nyambura will be sharing in a bit. But mine is to welcome all of you, especially this year, as we introduce new component of it, of global solution, to think not only during this time of campaign, but even going beyond the campaign. So once again, welcome. And we're very glad that you're willing to be part of this process. And I'll ask Nyambura just to come and now share with us. But maybe before that, let me just say, why children? We actually believe that children have inherent dignity, just like adults. And not only inherent dignity, but they are full persons in their own rights. And so we believe that their rights must be protected. But beyond just having dignity and rights, we also believe that children understand the issues that affect them, and they are able to articulate maybe differently from adults. And they are also able to come up with solutions meaningful solutions respond to that. So as Arigatou International, we believe in active children's participation that take them seriously. And that is why even when you come to the issue of a children's solution lab, we want to engage them. We want not only to do for them, but to do with them and to accompany the processes. So we take the children's participation, children's engagements, children's presence, children's views very seriously. And that's what we'll be talking about today as we move forward. Let me ask my colleague Nyambura just to talk about the international IDEP in a wider perspective. Nyambura.
So thank you very much, Maria Lucia. Thank you, Fred, for introducing us to the picture of who Arigatou is and why we focus on children. And that's in the context with which we are supporting the Children's Lab. And that's in the context in which we observe the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. Henceforth, in this conversation, I'll be calling it IDEP. So when you hear IDEP, this is what I'm talking about. IDEP is celebrated every year on the 17th October, and it was instituted by many bodies, including the United Nations. Though it did not start from the United Nations, it actually started from a person who was concerned about the level of poverty he saw in his community, and he thought, what can we do together? So he advocated until it became a worldwide recognized day. So when we come together as persons interested in the well-being of children, organizations such as yours, in partnership with Arigatou International, we say, why not use this day as an opportunity to address child poverty? In the world currently, 1 out of every 2 children lives in poverty. We have about 2.5 billion children currently, and 1 billion of those are affected by poverty. So we thought, why not use this day as an opportunity to highlight that critical problem that affects so many. And when you look at the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, or IDEP, it gives us an opportunity to do 3 things. The first is to create awareness about the issue of poverty, and in our case, about child poverty. The second is to advocate, and advocacy means talking to the religious leaders, talking to the senior leaders, government, businesses, anyone in a position of power, anyone who can do something about child poverty, talking and lobbying them to take the right action, to make the right policies for the well-being of children. And the third most important thing, IDEP gives us an opportunity to work together, to take action and say, what can I do in my community, in my grassroots level, at a regional level, national, wherever you are, with whatever resource you have, whatever is in your hand, what can you use to take action against child poverty? So this year, the theme of IDEP is acting together to achieve social and environmental justice for all. And when we talk about social and environmental justice, what we mean is creating a conducive place, a conducive atmosphere within our world, whichever society you're in, that children can thrive, their rights are respected, they can live free of poverty. How we are bringing in the Children's Solution Lab is we're looking at the situation of saying, what can children do, supported by adults, together with people who care about them? What can children do to address social and environmental justice? What solution, what idea can they come up with? What innovation can they make to address child poverty? And we consider that education is one of the biggest resources. Education is one of the biggest tools. One of the most beloved leaders once said, education is the biggest weapon to get children out of poverty. That's Nelson Mandela. So with that understanding of IDEP, as we continue engaging with you, even after this information session, we will send you information on IDEP, how you can participate, how the Children's Lab comes in, and we'll invite you to visit our websites where we have more. So with that, I'd like to, before I hand over to the next person, as Maria Lucia, I invite you one last time quickly to tell us the correlation between education and poverty and why we thought to bring these two together in the Children's Solution Lab. Thank you.
Thank you, Nyambura. And well, I think most of us and the entire world, 188 countries, have been affected by the closure of schools. And children, of course, have been affected by the closure itself, but it has also created a lot of impacts, indirect impacts on children's well-being. And that means also in terms of their socio-emotional well-being, their spiritual well-being. And I think with the closure of schools, we have realized how important education is for the well-being of children, for their nutrition. We know that many children around the world receive the meals in schools, and that one meal that they receive in school is perhaps the only meal that they receive during the day. We know that schools are protective mechanisms for children, that in schools, children are able to socialize with other children, to be protected, to feel empowered. And at times this doesn't happen in their homes. We know that the current COVID-19 pandemic is creating an unprecedented impact on the livelihood of people. We know that it will have a tremendous economic impact on people, and the most affected, of course, are the most vulnerable communities, those that are already affected by poverty. And we know that many, many children around the world will be falling into poverty and extreme poverty. And so with this correlation of how education can help children, the role that education plays in supporting children, the role of education also supporting families, is that we are launching this Children's Solutions Lab. And what we mean by a Children's Solution Lab is creating an opportunity and a space for children and young people to come together to understand what is the impact of poverty in their lives, what is happening, what is the impact of COVID-19 in their lives today, and understand what is the role of education in addressing some of those impacts, and coming up with their own solutions. What ideas they have, what can they propose? And we are not looking for maybe big solutions. We are looking for their own solutions in their own communities, in their own spaces. So this Children's Solutions Lab is really an opportunity to listen to the voices of children and young people, to create opportunities for them to come together, to reflect, to dialogue, and to propose and recommend actions. So we go to the next slide, Nyambura. And so what we are proposing is the possibility for groups of children to come together and propose these solutions. And during this process, and there will be more now explanations on how this will take place, there will be a selection process. We'll be selecting 5 initiatives, and those 5 initiatives will receive support in terms of mentoring, in terms of recognition. We want to recognize those children that are coming up with those solutions. So these children will be able to present their ideas in November during the Global Week of Faith in Action for Children that will be held between 16th and 20th of November, with several activities where children will take leadership. During that week, we want children that have proposed these solutions to present their ideas, to present why they think these ideas can make a difference in their communities to address issues of poverty. And there will be mentoring after the selection on how these ideas can be put into action. And then there will be some financial contribution to these 5 selected ones. The amounts are $1,500 for the first 2, and the others 3 will receive a contribution of $500. Apart, of course, from this financial contribution, what we want is to hear the voices of children and young people. So we want the recognition of these ideas. We want to make it visible for others, to become an inspiration for other children and young people. This is not an opportunity, it's not a grant opportunity or a funding opportunity. So we, as Arigatou, we are not a funding agency, but this is an opportunity to empower children and young people to implement solutions, and also to enhance the children and young people's participation in your own organization, in your programmatic areas in the organization. So how children can take the lead, how children can become more active, working together with you adults that support them. So we have some requirements and criteria. So we are asking that the group of children will be of at least 4 children below the age of 18. Why 18? And I think most of you are familiar with the Convention on the Rights of the Child that considers children until the age of 18. So when we say children, and sometimes we say young people, but we're referring to the age until the age of 18 years old. And we are encouraging that there are groups of interfaith groups, meaning children from different religions coming together. Children should be affiliated to an organization or interfaith group that can provide this support that is needed, as we want children to be able to implement these solutions. We know that adults play a critical role in supporting children and empowering them. The focus, of course, of the solutions that we are looking at is a focus on how education can contribute to ending child poverty and how this is affecting children. We want to mobilize faith communities. So there is a great focus here on groups of children in faith communities that come together maybe with others. We want to mobilize faith resources because we know that faith and religious community have a very important role to play, particularly during this difficult time that we are all going through. We want these initiatives to be innovative. So we want children to think, what can be done? What can be different? What can we do together? And so we're looking for something that is innovative, that is sustainable. So not just, for example, that there is a meeting that the children organize, but how this meeting, if it is the case, will have some impact in the medium term, for example, how this solution can also be replicable. As I mentioned, we want to inspire other children around the world. So maybe this idea will become an idea that will inspire others in other continents or parts of the world. We wanted, of course, to be relevant and sensitive to the local context of the applicant, so sensitive to the religious differences, to the different ethnic and cultural differences, sensitive to gender, sensitive to the realities that children are living, and that this initiative is feasible to be completed by the end of February 2021. So the selection will take place now at the end of October and November. The presentation will happen in November, and then there will be this time for children to implement until the end of February. So these are some of the requirements and criteria. Now my colleagues will explain a little bit more on what is all this about, so that you can also have time to ask some questions. Thank you, Nyambura.
Thank you so much, Maria Lucia, for taking us through. I appreciate the emphasis you've placed that the Children's Solution Lab is all about empowering, enabling children to participate. It's all about encouraging children to think and say, we are part of the solution. Child poverty affects us, we are part of the solution. And I like that the connections you brought in with the context of COVID, how that has impacted children, how that has impacted their education. So as we can move on now to the next step, Suchit will be able to tell us a little bit more about the nitty-gritty, the practicalities of how do we organize a Children's Solution Lab? What do we do about it? So Suchit, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Nyambura. Yeah, so what we envision is a very participatory process that we as adults can facilitate for children to create the space and the opportunity for them to look at what are the solutions for child poverty in their own context. And this requires for us to ensure that the process is a safe, inclusive, and participatory process. In terms of thinking how a Children's Solutions Lab or a Children's Solutions Lab event can happen in your community, you can think of it as a workshop that you run for a few hours. You can organize it over multiple sessions also, if that is required, that's the better arrangement. You can also do it online if current COVID-19 pandemic situation does not allow you to gather in a safe space. So whatever format of the event that you organize, these are some considerations that we invite you to look at when you are thinking of the events. First of all, think of ensuring that the group of children that you engage are diverse, that they are from diverse backgrounds, that you try to bring together as much as possible children of different faith backgrounds to work together during this event. And also be in mind of the age group of children that caters to different age groups, as well as age group that can meaningfully engage and contribute to this Solutions Summit. Thinking then about the date and the timing, especially think of a date in October is our invitation. So one option is for you to already start thinking, organizing these events, but also to use the day, the week of the IDEP to also organize the event is another possibility. So whatever is suitable for your own context, find a time and a date that works for the children to meet together. We recommend a considerable amount of time. If it's a physical gathering, at least about 3 hours that you can spend with the children so that they're not rushed. So this is not a matter of just off the top of the head, this is the idea, but it's more a process of working together to find solutions. So we require that you facilitate a process of at least around 3 hours where children can engage with one another, dialogue, and identify and work on these solutions. Think of a venue that's appropriate. Look at children's safety, ensure that all throughout that the safeguarding of children is part of how you plan the event, and then make sure that you have the consent. Both of these topics that my colleague Nyambura will talk more about later. Then during the event, it's very important to create a very safe learning environment where we encourage the participation of all children. We welcome all of them and we engage them. We offer them the opportunity to find the solutions. We are not going to impose our ideas to them. That's very important. Creating small mixed groups might be a useful technique to use for this purpose. So as much as possible, let them work in smaller groups and come up with their own ideas of what they think are solutions. We also remind you to take pictures within guidelines, appropriate guidelines as well. Ensure that you do work with the children. So you don't need to keep all your all hands off in this process, but what your role will be to ask questions, encourage them, to help them think critically during this process. It's very important. All children, again, participate, and that participation is a meaningful participation. At the end of the event, make sure that they identify different solutions. If there are multiple solutions, you can consider which one out of these solutions you want to contribute to the international selection process. Get children to decide which of the solutions should be submitted to the international process. But of course, all solutions can be implemented in your own reality. You can support them with resources and the mentoring to implement those solutions for the children themselves. The deadline for submission of the solutions is October 25th. There is an online form that Nyambura will again mention about that is part of the process. So when we mean a meaningful process, what do we mean? I think it's a matter of, this is a sample of a process that we can run to encourage meaningful participation. So the first part, we talked about highlighting the importance of a safe space, a safe environment where children can interact with each other. So please make sure at the very beginning, introduce this process, introduce the event, what is this event about, introduce the Children's Solutions Lab, and welcome children to meaningfully participate in this. Make sure that they feel the ownership and that they feel this is their space to come up with ideas and not just to tell us what they think we want to hear. The next part of the program that you create should create space for children to get to know each other, relate to one another, reflect on their own lives and how they relate to others. It's very important, especially in the context where we said we are encouraging you to bring children of diverse backgrounds together. It's important that the children have space to relate to one another and get to know and connect with one another before they actually start working on the issue of child poverty. The next flow part of the agenda, we encourage you to give them space to understand child poverty. That means how are children in our communities impacted by child poverty? What are root causes behind these issues of child poverty? Letting them think critically and sharing their own ideas with one another during this phase of the agenda. Then we encourage you to give them space to think, then how can education help to end child poverty? Again, it's important that children lead those ideas. It's not a lecture from us. It's not us giving them the ideas, but children themselves have space to think and reflect and connect with one another over this. Then, having had these reflections is where we want children to come together and think of the solutions that they want to champion to end child poverty with a focus on education. So the last part of the agenda should be to to give them adequate time to identify a specific solution, a solution that they can practically implement in their own context and is sensitive to the needs of that context, and is something that's meaningful as well. You will find a document that in the campaign messages we have already sent out, you will find a document with more details and this same sample agenda in a very detailed manner with some suggested activities that you can use to model your own Children's Solutions Lab event. Lastly, I would like to share with you a story of Arun and his work in Coimbatore, India. Let me quickly share with you this video.
Vanakkam. This is the respectful greeting in Tamil, my language. I am Arun. I live in the beautiful city of Coimbatore in India. Like in many other parts of the world, hunger and the availability of food is a problem in India too. Many people are hungry and undernourished. It's very difficult for food to reach them. But I found a simple solution. How? Let me tell you. In 2006, I participated in the Learning to Live Together program. It is a program created by Arigatou International and implemented here by the Shanti Ashram. Together with many other children, I learned about reconciliation, empathy, respect, and responsibility. Empathy is what impressed me the most. We learned how to walk in others' shoes and how to feel the pain of the most vulnerable. It kept me thinking, how can I live these principles? How can I help the most vulnerable? I know, food. So I went to the streets and asked my neighbors to give me a handful of rice to share with the vulnerable. But no.
You are just begging for yourself.
And even my family was not sure.
You putting Shivanas Arun?
But I didn't want to give up. So I kept knocking on doors and shortly, the first person shared some rice. I couldn't believe it. And then slowly, others trusted me too, and they started giving generously. But how do I get this to the most vulnerable? I went to Shanti Ashram, and the team was very impressed.
We should invite other kids to collect as well,
they said. So, with the help of Shanti Ashram, I started to encourage other kids to join me.
Vanakkam, I am Muhammad.
Vanakkam, I am Mary.
It did not matter what religion or social class we were. We became friends by helping others. Together, we collected rice, but also dal, grains, and oil. Because rice alone did not have enough nutrition, especially for those that received our collected goods the most, the people living with HIV. Every time we visited them, seeing the happy faces of the kids as they received the food was a very rewarding moment. Each of us collected 20 kgs of rice every month. Our idea grew so much that other organizations started to support us. A big business organization donated us a box in which we could store the food. And mosques and churches helped us collect in their communities as well. To this day, we still inspire the next generations of children in our schools to collect in their neighborhoods. Some of us became super creative. We decorated some lamps and sold them. And with the money, we bought food to contribute to the food bank. Now, we collect up to 450 kgs of rice and dal every month. But it was not only about rice. The food bank inspired a much bigger project. The India Poverty Solutions. We wanted to end poverty, but not only by collecting rice. So we started collecting money through piggy banks. After some time, we gathered our savings and we gave a third of it to the food bank. Can you believe that we reached about 23,000 citizens in the past years? This would have never happened if we had not learned about ethics and respect for diversity, and had not been given the space and opportunity to put our ideas into action to help transform our communities. We are thankful for the Learning to Live Together program for this meaningful learning and for inspiring us to make a difference. If you have a great idea, you can find people to help you bring it to life. Today, our mantra remains, you should always help others, even if you know that they cannot help you back. Because doing something for others without expecting anything in return is the highest form of giving. You see, you even as a child can change the world, one handful of rice at a time.
That was an example from Coimbatore, India, of young Arun, who went through meaningful space for reflection and engagement with one another, other friends of his, and led his friends to start a food bank. I hope that inspires you to all create also inspiring spaces for children's participation in your own work. Nyambura, I hand over to you.
Suchi, thank you so much for sharing that video with us. Again, I have been encouraged by watching it. One wonderful thing to remember, when Harun started this, he was just a young man. If I'm not wrong, he might have been 14 or younger. And he thought, I can do something as a young person, as a child. And that exactly is the purpose of the Children's Solution Lab. It is so that we as adults and we caregivers, we as other young people working alongside children can support them to come up with solutions. Next, I'll be talking about some of the practical implications of the Children's Solution Lab, how to support children to submit. I'll start with a timeline, which you can see. And what we're doing today is the information session. Many of you are here because you expressed interest in supporting children to organize a Children's Solution Lab and to submit an idea. So this information session, which is being recorded, we will share with you the recording, the link. We will share with many others who aren't able to join us, together with this PowerPoint presentation, the video by Harun, and other resources, so that you can keep on thinking about what to do. That's what we're doing today. A separate one will be organized for our colleagues and friends from Latin America who predominantly speak Spanish, and we are working for that, towards that. And then on 17th October is the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, or IDEP. That is the culmination of all our efforts. It's a celebration all around the world. Some of you have engaged in it before, others it will be the first time. So whether you're a veteran in this or the first time, feel welcome, feel free. It's an opportunity to show children that we are together with you. You can do something about poverty. We are behind you, we're supporting you all the way. Suchit had mentioned earlier that you could consider organizing the Children's Solution Lab within this week of IDEP or prior to, because that's when the entire world is focusing on matters of poverty. But you're welcome to organize the Children's Solution Lab at any time according to your needs, according to the children's needs and their availability. The point is, encourage, find a way, a space to help gather the children's thoughts in a safe environment, whether you'll do it online, whether your restrictions in your country allow you to meet, in a manner that is safe for the children, so that they think through and they come up with the solutions. The whole purpose of this is to get children to think through, what can we do as children? How can we respond? It is to empower them. So that week of IDEP, 17th October, is a good week where you can actually have such a session. The deadline to submit these solutions by the children is the 25th October. We have shared with you through email the form, online form through which you can submit your ideas. It's a number of questions. I encourage you to first think through the ideas, put your answers in a separate place so that by the time you come online, you can just fill in. It's easy to save the answers online as you're filling in on behalf of your children, or if the children are capable, they understand how to do this, encourage them to fill in the answers themselves, to submit the form, to submit their idea. That is the way we can know which ideas that the children have come up with. Then on 1st November, we'll be able to tell you that these are the 5 key ideas. We're calling them the finalists. These are the 5 finalists who've been selected through various ways that are showing a strong correlation between how children are addressing poverty using education, and they've taken into consideration the ethical implications or the underlying ethical needs. So on 1st November, expect that announcement from us. We'll be able to tell you more about that. Then on 14th to 20th November, or 16th to 20th, the whole world will be looking at celebrating the Universal Children's Day, which happens on 20th. Towards that, and as part of a larger campaign that we're doing at Arigatou International called Faith in Action for Children, we're having a full week focusing on children's actions, children's events, what faith communities are doing towards that. And during that time, we'll have a special session where these 5 finalists, supported by the different organizations, supported by us, will have an opportunity to express and showcase their ideas to the rest of the world and say, this is what we've come up with, to encourage other children, to inspire them, and also for us to think through. Then from 1st to 28th November is when the finalists who've been selected, the ones who will receive a small micro grant of the amounts that we explained earlier, will be able to support them to do their idea, to work on the activity. We thought that it's a nice time period for that to kind of help kickstart the process. I reiterate again, the purpose of the Children's Solution Lab is not necessarily funding. Funding is an addition to help support the children's ideas. The whole purpose of this is so that children can participate. Children can be co-creators of solutions in their life. Thank you, Suchit. We can move to the next slide. So here we'll be looking at that process that I've just reiterated. The online form is so that we can get it instantly. It is easier for us to receive your responses when you do online. But sometimes we understand that internet might not be stable everywhere, or you might have that or not have that opportunity, and you can email us before that deadline date to tell us, I will not be able to submit my idea via the online form, but I will email, and here is the attachment. We encourage you to use the language most comfortable. However, during the submission process, use any language to interact with the children, the language that the children understand. But during the submission process, these are the languages we shall be using to accept your responses. So it can be in English, or French, Spanish, or Portuguese. We will provide translation once we receive your responses. When we come to the questions, I know some of you may ask, what if we don't meet that deadline? Well, so that we can make this an interactive process, and more so that we can give ample time for the children to work on the solutions, we are going to maintain that deadline date. We can move on to the final slide of this. The most important thing to keep in mind is, because our organizations, all of us, or every one of us here, has the well-being of children at heart, is to ensure that their safety and their rights are maintained, they are nurtured, they're protected. So we do have some policies in place. We do have some guidelines on how that can happen. At the top of your mind, you should make sure every question you're asking, how you're organizing this process, and how children are interacting and participating is, are these children safe? Is their well-being catered for? Are their rights being looked after? And most importantly, is to get consent or the requisite permissions from their legal guardian, their parent, or their caregiver. In our submission forms, we've provided a simple template or a sample which you can use, that you can say, yes, I do have consent to gather the children. I do have the permission to use their photographs, their stories, and their videos, because there's a part where we're asking, submit a video made by the children or capturing the children's voices, explaining a little bit more about the solution. So you have to get those permissions. If you do not have a child protection policy as an organization, we understand that. So what we can do, we have one as Arigatou International that you can adopt and use, and we will provide that as part of the submission form. Go through it, interact with it, let your children interact with it to know that they're safe throughout this process, and sign that consent form, sign that children safeguarding policy, and submit it together with your documents. So on the final slide of this issue, we're going to go and look more into how we can communicate about the Children's Lab. So I was taking you through the practicalities, and now I invite my colleague, Kefe, to take us through how do we communicate about the Children's Solution Lab and how you can encourage others to communicate about it. Thank you for listening. Kefe, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Nyambura, and thanks everyone for making your time to attend this Children's Solutions Lab information session. It's simple for communications. We're just encouraging you and your networks, your friends, your relatives, your family, to use your social media networks and spaces to talk about the Children's Solutions Lab and share information about it, so that we get to promote this idea and make ourselves visible, not just as Arigatou International, but also you as someone who is coming up with these solutions and trying to implement them. And another thing that has been talked about is that this Solutions Lab is part of the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty campaign. So by you promoting the Children's Solutions Lab online, you will be by extension also helping us promote and perpetuate the campaign online as we've done over the years. And how we're going to help you do this, we have some resources already in place, and we'll be coming up with other resources periodically to help you disseminate online and share in your social media spaces. This ranges from posters, messages that you can, replicate on your social media networks, and even live links that lead to our website and other relevant resources or material that can help you online. So be on the lookout for those, and we'll be sharing them in our MailChimp emails and other spaces where we get to communicate with you. And as you can see on the slide, we're just requesting you to connect with us on Twitter, and that's the handle there, on Facebook, and yes, we're also on Instagram. We forgot to put the username, but you'll be getting it shortly, so that we get to popularize this idea worldwide, so that people get to know it, and as a space, an amazing and awesome space where children get to hear their voices, come up with innovative solutions, and participate in the whole idea of ending child poverty through education-oriented solutions. Thank you very much. Back to you, Nyambura and Suchi.
So, thank you. We're doing well. We've made progress. On the chat, I can see we're asking questions and we're responding to them. We do hope this session has been useful. Please feel free to keep asking questions on the chat and onwards. And know that even though the information session today has come to an end, that there are going to be continuous opportunities. It's just the beginning. You can ask questions to us via email. We have our contacts on the form. It is just the beginning. On social media, it's just the beginning, not left you alone. So as we come towards closing, we have a time where we're going to open for a few minutes for you to ask any questions. You can do so via chat. We'll be able to see them, and we can see if the hosts can allow you to ask any questions. So with your permission, we can spend about 10 minutes. If you do have any questions around the Children's Solution Lab, this is your time. In the meantime, on the chat, we will be including links to some of these resources that we have prepared for you. So as we conclude, Maria Lucia, would you like to kind of... Yes,
yeah. I'm just interested to hear from the participants. So if you have any questions, you need clarifications apart from what has been in the chat. So please feel free to ask, or any comments Please, we have a few minutes.
So one of the questions that was asked prior over email was whether organizations need to have legal status to be supporting a children's group, whether it's required to have that sort of legal status, a new organization or a new group, can they also support a group of children to submit a solution? So I think a response to that is that we require organizations to be legal in terms of being willing to accept funding. If they are selected, then we will provide a micro grant, and most often than not, legal and financial procedures also require for that organization to be registered for us to be able to transfer funds. So it is required that you have an official and legally incorporated organization to be the supporting organization. So if you are a newer group that does not have legal status, do partner with the organization or a group that has legal status so that you work with them in submitting the solutions. I see a hand from Joyce. Joyce, would you like to ask your questions? I'm going to unmute you. Please go ahead and unmute, Joyce.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, Suchit and all. Yeah, I have a question. I wonder if I didn't follow properly, but I'm wondering after the selection and the children will have started to do what they have proposed, how are you going to monitor the monitoring and evaluation mechanism? Will it come later? I didn't hear it, or maybe I missed it.
So the 5 children's projects that are selected, the solutions that get selected will receive support, as we mentioned, in mentoring. And that mentoring support will be to help them think out and make a project plan of how that will be more detailed, implemented. And as part of that, we will continue to engage with that children and support them and help them learn from the process of implementation. So as we said, this is not a formal process of grant making where we have to have what we standardly call a M&E process. But in this case, what is important for us is transparency, and that any finances is provided are handled transparently, that we agree on the action plan and the implementation plan for the project, and that children are supported, and we encourage reflective learning in the process of implementation as well. So that's the requirement, and that will be part of the support we provide in terms of the mentoring for the selected initiative. While only 5 initiatives will be selected to receive this mentoring and recognition and micro grants, we do encourage you to continue to support the children's groups that you engage in the Children's Solutions Lab to implement those solutions from your side as well. And if you are implementing, do communicate and share that with us, because we can still incorporate those implementations and give them recognition as well, while we are not able to directly support them with resources.
Okay, thank you so much, Sujit.
We also have a question from Pruba from Bhutan. Thank you, Suchit. Thank you, Madam Joyce. We do have a question from Pruba. Please go ahead and mute your mic and you can ask the question.
Well, thank you, the Children's Solutions Lab, for having us here. It was quite good to know a very unique idea that came up with Arigatou International. And we have been seriously following on the post and advertisements made by the Children's Solution Lab. And since the start of the program, we have invited through our group the children in our country, and we have also received quite a good number of participants for the competition. So what I have in mind is how do we actually, what is our role as an organization between Arigatou International and the children who are at home? We do not see a clear role that we can play for this program. Supposing an advertisement on CS Lab is made by Arigatou International, and then the virtual forums and information sessions are held by Arigatou International, and we simply connect the children to Arigatou International and we disappear. So we remain silent here. So we would like to propose for our visibility and how we can also connect the children, and we also get engaged in the course of finding or developing the solutions.
Thank you for that question. I think when we talked about the process of engagement for children and your engagement as an organization, we mentioned that you can organize the Children's Solutions Lab. We are launching the Children's Solutions Lab as a campaign, as an initiative globally, but you as individual organizations, groups in each different context can organize an event, whether virtual or physical, that you will organize. You will convene children, you will work with them, you will empower them, you will support them, you will guide them through implementation. All of that is done by you. We are not directly liaising with the children. What we will offer is, in addition to that, an international selection process where five of those solutions can receive support. We know that there's many of you here, so many solutions will come. Not all of that we are able to directly engage with, but 5 of them at an international level will support through the ways that we've already mentioned. But we encourage you, if you have 10 groups of children submitting solutions, you can work with that 10 groups of children. And that's a process you do at your own level, at country. You can use the materials that we are providing you with for that process. So it's not that we are taking over the groups of children that you convene. You are actually going to be the one leading this process. You're going to be the one working with them and empowering and supporting their actions. What we offer is the international recognition, the opportunity to submit, and the international level of mentoring and support that we can provide in addition to what you do.
Nyambura, can I just say something here? I think Purba's questions are fundamental and a good one for everybody. Just as we said when we began, the Solution Lab is part of a wider campaign. It's one part of a wider campaign of Together We Can End Child Poverty Worldwide, which is highlighted during IDEP period. And we encourage you to see this as not just a contest, but a process whereby even if it's not one of the 5, it's still part of the IDEP campaign. And if you don't have the toolkit of IDEP, please get it. Because what we do, you're talking about visibility. We normally give visibility to all the activities that are done during this period of campaign, including the processes that you might have that might not be part of the 5. We'll give it visibility, we'll document it, we'll be able to acknowledge you, and share it over a period of time, even with other organizations within your own countries, so that those processes, you never know, might have a life of their own. But the main thing is, how do we end child poverty worldwide? So they will be recognized, maybe not acknowledged within the 5, but it's you that will be moving on, ours just to accompany the process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fred, for that. So with your permission, we'll just take 2 more questions, and one is around the issue of consent. So we have a Daniel who's a teacher, and he's asking, should he get consent from the head teacher in the school and the organization with which he works with? So maybe Suchit, you can advise on the issue of consent. And then if there's someone who has one more question, you're free to put it on the chat. If there's none, I will share a question that had come up through email. So Suchit, please advise on the matter of consent.
Yes, the consent we talk about is the consent primarily, first of all, from the child for materials that are of that child's expression. Then secondly, of the legal guardian of the child. Those are the most important consents that we need for any being part of this process. But organizationally, yes, if you want to run a process in a school, or if you are, I know in the case of Daniel, he is a teacher, but part of a larger organization, but affiliated to a school. So in those contexts, yes, you should talk to both the school and the other organization you're part of, because as Reverend Fred mentioned, this is a process of mobilizing advocacy and working on these solutions. So this is an opportunity for you to educate and advocate for children's solutions and child poverty at the level of your organization and school as well. So do talk to them and partner with them. But the requirement from our side for consent is from the child and their legal guardian. I saw a question from Zam from Kenya on the chat asking whether there can be more than one solution submitted from a particular group. What we have explained also in the booklet that we have provided is, yes, we can possibly consider it, but knowing that it's an international level selection process and only 5 to be supported at that level, what we encourage is if there is possibility for you to work together for those different ideas to converge to a common idea that is meaningful and encompassing, please do that. But if you feel that no, these are 2 distinct ideas that needs to be also shared and recognized, please, yes, we can encourage you to submit more than one solution. But also we do as much as possible encourage for the children to work together. So involve the children in the process of deciding which of those solutions should be submitted. Don't take over that process of decision making. Once the children come up with ideas, don't you take over the process of deciding, okay, this is the best one, I will submit this on behalf of the children. No, encourage and sit down with the children, discuss with them, okay, we want to submit 1 or 2, which are from these different solutions that you have come up with, which one do you think we should submit for the international level? And which one do you think we can still continue to implement at a local level? So do that.
So I will ask one question to the floor. After I do ask that one question, I'll invite each of my colleagues to give just a closing thought on a specific thing. So Kefe will give a closing thought on IDEP resources. And then I invite Suchit to give a closing thought on the Children's Solution Lab. Maria Lucia will tell us more about how we can engage going forward, keeping in mind that all this is about the child responding from a place of values and ethics, using education as a resource. And then Reverend Fred will recap and just remind us why we are doing this for children ending poverty. So just before that, this is the final question we had. And please feel free if you, sorry?
Sorry, Ring has been having his hand up for a long time now from South Sudan. If you can give him the opportunity as well.
My deepest apologies, I didn't see that. So you can please go ahead and mute your mic and ask the question.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, Nyambura and the team. Actually, it is my pleasure to be with you because this is our first time, to have this kind of children solution lab, and it is actually very interesting. And I would like also to know more so that we really do what is really needed by Arigatou. Now, kindly requesting, because for us now, it is first time for us, to involve in this kind of innovative child solution. So is it possible also you give us previous samples of projects or maybe solutions of children so that they guide us? I'm not meaning that we just copy and paste, but so that we can understand and explain that to children in a way that they can do the work as they do. And then the other thing is, those children, for example, 5, at least maximum 5 or 4, I mean, are we targeting those poor children on the street, or we are getting those children from the families or from schools, and then we bring them together and discuss how they can come up with a solution that will end poverty? That's what I don't know. So I need more clarification on those 2 things. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ring, for asking. So Suchit could respond to the question of where do we get the children, and then Reverend Fred could respond to the question of what kind of ideas and where you can go to find out that information.
Okay. In terms of the children to work with, what we encourage is children that ideally you've been already working with. We don't want to engage children in a one-off event and let them sort of standing on their own after that. So if you've already been working with children in different programs and different work that you do, if you work with schools, then build on that work that you are already doing and engage the children from the programs that you have. If you wish to engage with a new group of children, please do think of them, their engagement for the longer term, not just for a short-term process, but how you would work them with them for a longer term. So that's very important. And the other consideration I think we have made, advised or encouraged is to make sure that when you work, if you are a Christian or a faith-based organization, you find and partner with maybe another faith-based organization so that the group of children becomes diverse and that different backgrounds are reflected in the diversity of the group. So those are some encouragements from our side. When we do the selections, we will, of course, prioritize groups that have diversity, and that it will be part of the selection process criteria, that we will encourage interfaith actions because that's one of the key focuses. But otherwise, all of these considerations are up to you because this is a process that you will lead at the local level. You are not implementing projects for us in this situation. These are projects and initiatives that you will start at local level, but you are submitting to an international process for recognition and support. So I think that is what is important.
Nyambura, you want me to go now, or when I'm giving, I combine everything now so that I just pick once?
Maybe just because I'd like you to do the closing. So maybe just now you can respond to.
I'll respond at the end. So
all right. Thank you so much. So thank you, everyone. We are now coming to the conclusion of this information session. I know you may have other questions still, and we have provided our email address there that you can get in touch with us. Yes, Suchit.
There's one person who's also been raising their hand. So shall we?
Please forgive me, I have not seen that yet. With your permission, everyone, please let's take this this final true story, final question. Please go ahead.
Please go ahead. From people, so this should be fine.
Please go ahead.
Alibuno. Emi Balibuno, please go ahead and ask your questions. You're muted right now. If you unmute your mic, you will be able to share your question. Amy, do you hear us? If you are able to hear, please unmute your mic. There's a button on the bottom left that you can click to unmute your mic and ask your question. Unfortunately, no, I don't think Amy is able to respond. So let's go ahead, Nyambura.
My deepest apologies to Amie from OJCD. What we can do, I encourage you, Amie, please write to us email. We'll also reach out to you on WhatsApp because I think you're part of our contact people. Please, you can ask your question then, and we are willing and ready to respond. So as I go through the chat, there's still a number of things, and this will be addressed as we are doing our closing. So the final question that we had received on email, it's also captured on chat, had to do with the Children's Solution Lab. This process only runs up till February, but we understand that child poverty is a long-term issue. So the question is twofold. The first part is, can we support, or are we going to support ideas beyond February? And the second part of that question is, what are we doing about child poverty in the long term? So I would not want to leave that Fred only. If we can just take a round of thoughts, maybe Suchi, Maria Lucia, what do you think about that? Are we saying, and when February comes by, we won't see you again? And what do we do about child poverty in the long term, which Fred can respond as he's wrapping up everything?
Maybe just say a few words. I know some people will need to leave soon, but I would like to say, and I was very attentive to this question that came from Joyce as well, that what we are looking, of course, is that these solutions can be practically implemented by February, right? So that whatever children came up with can be implemented by February, so we can know what is happening. But of course, the idea is that these solutions are sustainable as well. So it's not that they do something and then that's the end. And if you could see the video that we have of Arun, the idea was such that it continues and it evolves into something else, into the India poverty solutions. So that's what we are looking, that these solutions end at the end of February, but that, you know, they can be implemented and they have sustainability in the medium term and longer term. So that's, I think, one aspect that we're not looking for just a quick fix to something, but really looking at something more sustainable. The other part is that in terms of support, I mean, I will speak in terms of education and what we do with ethics education for children. So one of the things we do is that we organize also workshops on learning to live together, which is our flagship program on our ethics education approach. And we can, you know, support also if the initiatives take place in schools, we can support educators to create more spaces and participatory spaces for children and young people in the school. For example, these initiatives can lead to the creation of peace clubs in schools, for example, or other groups in schools. And Arigatou has experience supporting educators in helping children to create these participatory spaces through our ethics education programs. So this is also support that we could provide moving forward. And of course, I think, and we haven't discussed this with Fred, but of course, I think that if the solutions, of course, are sustainable and are, you know, can be replicable, we can look at other ways to continue supporting, or maybe these solutions can be replicated in other parts of the world, so there is inspiration for others. But these are still the decisions that will need to be made as the process starts. As we just mentioned, this is the first time that we are launching this particularly Solutions Lab. And so we're very much looking forward to hear from you suggestions and then build on the learning as we go. So I think we are open to different possibilities, and I welcome ideas and suggestions as well as we move forward.
Thank you. One thing I want to highlight in the process of selecting, especially, we want to look at both the outcome, but also the process. So in the question submission form, if you look at it later on, you'll find that we ask, what is the process that children went through to arrive at the solution? So for us, it's not about just the solution and having an idea, but it's also how you facilitated a participatory process and an empowering process to arrive, and that will be part of the selection criteria for support at an international level as well. So I do remind you that give that emphasis and plan out a meaningful participatory process for empowering children.
Thank you so much, Suchit. Thank you, Maria Lucia. We are so glad we've had this opportunity to speak with each of you regarding this process. I reiterate again that we welcome you to engage with us even after this information session via email, through social media, and Kefe will come up one last time to share that information with you. We also have received your email addresses. We will send you the link to this recording plus the presentation we've made and the link to Harun's video. We do have a ton of resources on the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. We are highlighting the Children's Solution Lab as one major thing that we're going to do. In addition, there are 4 other activities that we are encouraging you to engage in IDEP, including the photo campaign, including mobilizing your community to volunteer, including sharing your stories so that you can encourage others and we can learn from each other, and including engaging in social media. So we will send that IDEP toolkit to you on email. Plus, again, we encourage you to be available to you on social media. What we're going to do, as I had said earlier, is that we will recap this. So Kefe will go fast with any thoughts on communication, anything he would like to highlight. And then Acho, if there's anything you want to mention from the program's aspect. Then Maria Lucia, if there's any final thoughts. Suchi, then Reverend Fred will close for us. Before you log out after Reverend Fred, I'll request your permission if you want. You can turn on your cameras. We will take one group photo to remember the beginning of this process for all of us. So Kefe, any last thought? If there's none, just remind us about social media.
Not exactly last thoughts, but just a reminder about social media and some IDEP resources. Because as you realize, everyone, is that today is 17th of September, and we are exactly 1 month to the 17th of October, and which is the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. So today, this significant date of just exactly 1 month to IDEP will be receiving some resources as we've done before through email, and be on the lookout again through our social media handles that you already interacted with us through, and the ones that we shown you in the slide here. So yes, you'll be receiving some resources, and key to those resources will be the 2020 toolkit that gives you simple, innovative, creative, and replicable ideas that you can undertake in commemorating IDEP 2020. And also some creative and visual resources that you can share on social media and with your networks. Will be, you'll be receiving them within the course of today, just to mark that 1 month period to IDEP. And also we have some, amazing resources in there, including, a motivating and encouraging statement from our director that you see here, one of our directors of the Untitled Poverty Initiative. Will be part of those resources. And for the Children's Solutions Lab, which is part of this IDEP campaign, also, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be receiving resources again, some posters and consolidated messages that we prepared between Untitled Poverty and ethics education for children, just for you to promote and enhance visibility of this initiative. So yes, be on the lookout of, through the various communication channels we have on email, social media, including WhatsApp, in the various groups that we are in, and we'll be communicating and feeding you the resources as much as possible and answering some of your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kefe. Acho, is there anything you'd like to add or just say hello? I introduced Gerald Acho. He's working together with us in the program. This team here will be reaching out to you a lot as we go forward with the Children's Solution Lab and IDEP. Acho, anything at all? If there's none, that's all right.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Kindly.
Hi, everyone. I don't have anything to say, just to say thank you all for taking your time and considering to be part of this process. And actually, personally, I am excited for the prospects of the Children's Solution Lab. And I hope you are excited as I am. So we look forward in the coming months on how we interact together for these processes. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Acho. So we'll be reaching out to you together with this team. And then, Maria Alicia, is there any last thought? Cyprian, I'm so sorry we do not have a bit more time for questions, but feel free to put your question on the chat, and thank you for joining us.
Nyambura, no, I don't want to take more time. I don't want to take more time, but just to say that this is very exciting. I very much look forward to reading and learning about these solutions and the processes that you will engage with the children and young people. I think at this particular time in our lives, in all countries around the world, where children have been taken from them the opportunities to participate fully, we know that there has been a shrinking space for children to participate. I think this is a very meaningful opportunity to recreate these spaces and to think differently and more with imagination on the different opportunities we can provide to children to think about the future, to think about solutions to the world, for the world today. So I'm very much looking forward to reading, to learning from your experiences, and also looking forward to learning from the children themselves. So thank you for being part of this, and look forward to walking with you this journey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria Lucia. Suchita na the hosts of this meeting, so we will just do the final anything. Reverend Fred, would you like to close the informative part, please?
Maybe just 4 things as a reminder. But before that, thank you. Thank you very much for creating this time to really listen to us and also reflect together. But the first thing is that the main actor, remember, is the child. That's the main actor in all of these things. And two, it's a process, not events. We don't want this to end in February or in November, as you've asked. It's a process. And it is your process, as we're just providing the space for you. And thirdly, it's a part of a big picture. And the big picture is ending child poverty. We're just providing tools. There's a campaign, Together We Can End Child Poverty Worldwide, and that includes you. So stay in touch. And as Maria Lucia has said, there are other spaces in which we can think together. If there are other resources from elsewhere, we can think through, we can write proposals together, we can connect you with other people in your own countries and communities. So it's not the money. The idea is more important than the money. The idea is more important than what you can give or get from you. So we will continue talking and visit our websites. End Child Poverty has a lot of resources. You can be part of the ongoing resources, and also ethics education has a lot that we can offer. If you're new to us, this is the good time to connect with us and let us work together. Mine is just to thank you again and to thank my colleagues for all the good work that you've done.
Thank you so much, Fred. So if you can switch on your cameras at this juncture, if you want to, then we can take a group photo. Then I'll hand over the meeting to the host, who is Suchit, and he will close for us. So thank you so much. Again, I reiterate, reach out to us on email. We've asked where you can get the form. We'll put that out there. We'll send that to you. It's online. I know there are persons who've not had a chance to ask questions here. Reach out to us on email, reach out to us on social media. We will be available to you. So if you wish, you can switch on your cameras now. We will take a group photo. And then Suchit, please, I hand over the meeting to you. Thank you, everyone. It's been so good to be here with you. Okay, group photo time. And
Cafe, are you able to help us take the picture?
We have smiles from all over the world. We all look good.
Good.
Are we taking it?
Cafe, did you manage to take the picture? Are we good?
So I trust that.
Yes,
Cafe.
I have taken the full pictures, so I can share them later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Blessings. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Suchit, on to you to close. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Forward to being in touch.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
I will leave the meeting open for a few minutes if anybody has a specific question you want to ask, but after 5 minutes, we will close. Okay, thank you very much then. Look forward to being in touch. I'm gonna end the meeting for now. Take care.